5 minutes till we're live.
Right, good evening everyone. Welcome to Air Ambulance Charity Kent, Surrey, Sussex Restarter Heart Days teaching. This is the last session of the day, isn't it, Lindsay?
It is, yeah.
Essentially the goal of today is aiming to teach as many people as possible the skills of how to save a life. My name's Ben, I'm one of the paramedics here at the charity and I'm joined by...
I'm Lindsay, I'm also one of the paramedics here at the charity.
Now, hopefully the sound's going to work for you without issue. We've had a couple of tech glitches throughout the day, and essentially what we'll do is we'll put a link to our pre-recorded kind of videos within the chat, and they're very similar and you'll be able to access those throughout. You'll probably also see us kind of shifting slightly on the knees. They're a little sore, aren't they?
They are. It's been a long day.
We've essentially been down on the floor here teaching CPR since sort of 9:30 this morning.
Yeah.
We reckon that we'd have trained over 25,000 people by the end of the day in these skills. So hopefully we've got some lifesavers out there and we've done some good today.
I think we've got a fair few now.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit around cardiac arrest today. We're going to talk a little bit around kind of these life-saving skills. Obviously we're going to discuss it in a very friendly way, but if it might be something that's close to people, and we'll be as sensitive as we can, but just kind of a bit of forewarning that we are going to talk around cardiac arrest. So Lindsay, we're going to show them quite a few things, aren't we? Do you want to talk them through kind of the plan for the next half an hour as they're there with us?
So firstly, we're going to work through this in a stepwise approach. And firstly, we're going to show you how to check for dangers and check for someone's responsiveness. So essentially, do they need you to start resuscitation or not? Then we're going to talk about how to call 999. So some of the tips and tricks, for example, just making sure you know where you are. Then we're going to meet one of our dispatchers who's also going to talk through those hints and tips, and followed by one of our pilots who has the lovely job of flying us around this beautiful countryside. Then we're going to get down to the nitty gritty and we're going to show you how to do CPR. So essentially how to save someone's life. Then just to stick a bow on the top, we're going to show you how to deliver a shock to restart someone's heart with a defibrillator. So We just want you to feel comfortable by the end of this session that you would be able to step up and have a go at saving someone's life. So finally, after that, just to finish the day off, you're going to see a video with our medical director to understand how what you can do can allow us to deliver these new interventions, and well, these aren't new interventions, but some new interventions, and hopefully save some more lives.
Yeah, perfect. Cheers, Lindsay. So why are we doing this? Well, this is really important. Is that this is our 3rd year of doing Restart a Heart, the 3rd year of us sacrificing our knees for one day every year.
It doesn't get any easier, does it?
It doesn't. The knees get more fragile and definitely more sore. But we know that across the southeast, on average, every single day, 25 people will suffer a cardiac arrest outside of hospital. So where the heart stops and no longer is pumping blood around the body. And that is the most time-critical emergency that we attend, isn't it? So we know from the data that of those that have resuscitation, only 1 in 10 survive, okay? And our aircraft is fast. You'll hear about that later. We can fly anywhere within the patch within half an hour, okay? But for people in cardiac arrest, that just is not quick enough, okay? There's a 10% fall in survival for every minute that CPR is delayed. And therefore, this isn't someone else's problem. This is something where we need people to act straight away as soon as something happens. We know that CPR and defibrillation before the ambulance arrives more than doubles the chance of someone's survival. There's very little in healthcare that doubles someone's chances of survival, is there? And actually, we know that defibrillation within 3 to 5 minutes of a cardiac arrest happening has about a 50 to 80% survival rate, infinitely better than the 10% survival rate that actually we widely quote. So we're going to take you through this really important lesson. Thank you so much for giving up your evening or some of your evening and joining us. We're first going to pass you over to Paul, who's one of our patients who had a cardiac arrest, and he demonstrates really clearly how the actions of people like yourselves before the ambulance or ourselves arrive can really influence outcome. Lovely, welcome back. So having shown you essentially how important CPR is within that chain of survival and how much of a difference you can make as bystanders, we're going to walk you through the framework of actually how to learn these life-saving skills in hopefully a really simple stepwise approach. We're going to be using this kind of doctor's ABCD framework that Lindsay's kindly sitting in front of towards the bottom. Okay, so starting at the top, up there, we're going to talk about dangers. Okay, and I think, Lindsay, anyone who's done a first aid course, they'll have done the check for danger, check it's all good, but actually we need to talk a bit more about it, don't we?
We do. Do you know what always comes up? That big electric cable that's sparking that everyone sees in the movies. And whenever I ask what's dangerous, and they're like, oh, electric cables. And that's quite rare. I think we need to talk about the dangers that we don't think are dangerous. But when we are put in a situation where someone needs our help, your peripheral vision, whereas if you were crossing the road to help someone, you'd normally look, check, you know, all of that, and all of a sudden you'll get task focused and you just make a beeline for whoever needs your help. So I think it's really important to make sure that you do check for dangers, don't put yourself in any danger. What's happened to this person that's collapsed in the street or somewhere, because whatever's happened to them could happen to you if you're not careful. So year on year, we hear about people being injured when they're trying to do a good deed and rescue someone. So someone that's gone into a river or a lake or the sea to sort of rescue that person that's drowning, or someone that's gone on the ice and ended up going through the ice, you know, all of those sorts of things, putting themselves in harm's way to save someone else is very heroic, but we don't want two patients at the end of this.
Yeah, it's a really good point, isn't it? And it might be if someone spots essentially someone in difficulty but gets stuck at danger, they call for some help, but that is what they do, isn't it? And actually what we don't want is two people requiring rescuing. You know, call for help, and there's some professional people out there, isn't there, who will be able to help. Perfect. So we checked for dangers, and we've talked about that in a little bit of depth. So D in our doctor's ABC, and the next bit is the R for response, isn't it? So we talked about this earlier in the day, Lindsay. I think this is almost where people start to worry, isn't it? You know, we hear this when we're in the ambulance control room. You hear people call in saying this person, you know, I don't know if they're asleep or not, but they're not really moving. And when they're asked to check for a response, they get really worried that they're going to get in trouble or they're going to do it wrong. Do you want to talk us a little bit through how they can safely check for a response so that they're protected, they're not assumed to be doing something wrong, but also how they can keep themselves safe as well?
So we talked about danger, so make sure it's safe for you to go near the patient. And when you go up towards the patient, just start by talking to them. Everyone automatically wants to like jump on them and start shaking them. But first of all, in a nice loud voice, start talking to them. Ask them if they can hear you. And if they're not responding to your voice, then just gently squeeze their shoulders or tap them on their collarbone. Hello, can you hear me? Are you awake? Can I help you? You see if they respond to that. When we talk about response, we're looking for any sort of sign of life. So some eye flickering, some slight movement of the body, anything that would suggest that there are signs of life.
Yeah. And we know that, you know, I guess we know of people who have had a worse outcome because of delays in recognition at this stage, isn't it? Where people are unwilling to go forward. But we talked about it earlier, didn't we? We don't know of anyone who's got in trouble or prosecuted for trying to get a response here. People are safe and well protected to do that, aren't they? And I think the key thing is giving people confidence, isn't it? They're well protected to do this. They're not going to get in trouble, and they're safe to do that. So I guess the next bit, after checking for danger, checking for response, the next bit in our doctor's ABC is calling for help, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so we're going to pass you over to Carol, who's one of our 909 ambulance control room dispatchers, and she specifically looks after our aircraft, looking through the kind of 3,000 to 5,000 calls that come in a day and trying to pick out the 9 calls on average that we will go to every day. So a really tricky task for Carol, a true needle in a haystack. And she's going to give you some tips and tricks around what helps our dispatchers get help to you really fast. Lovely. So welcome back. So Carol gave us a load of tips and tricks there. Lindsay, do you want to talk us through kind of, I guess, the big important ones that we've been pulling out for people today?
Yeah, I think the most important one is knowing where you are, because one of the first things they've asked you is what's the location of the emergency. So in a stressful situation, things like that we would think of as so simple, like knowing our own address, just go out of our heads. And especially if you are not at your home address and you are calling from the roadside and you don't know what road you're on. So think simple things like walking to the end of that road, getting a name of a road, having what 3 words on your phone can literally be a lifesaver, because especially we have some beautiful countryside around here. If you're out for a walk and there are no roads, there are no road names, there's no landmarks, having what 3 words is really, really important. So all of those sorts of things will help us to get to you and the casualty a lot quicker.
And for those that I guess don't know about it, Lindsay, just tell us a little bit more about what 3 words and how it works. What are we on about with these 3 words?
That's a really good question.
Luckily,
that's an app, isn't
an app.
it? Yeah, it's an app, and every part of the UK has 3 words for a specific grid area. So wherever you are, it will pinpoint where you are and come up with these 3 random words, which will give us which is a unique location to that area.
Yeah, absolutely spot on.
Sense?
And that's compatible with the control room can put that into the CAD, the computer system, and they'll be able to pinpoint you straight away. And they do that through sending you a text message. We've also talked a lot today about neighbours, haven't we? So how essentially, if you're a parent, an adult, and you've got young children with you, then actually they might not be able to, know the address and call 999. But making a plan, we've talked a lot about process, making a plan around what would you do if they needed to get help? Who could they go to? Could they go knock on the neighbours to the right or to the left or up or down? Giving them a plan. Could you write your address on the fridge? All things that would help them. And we extended that out, didn't we, when we talked about the adult sessions earlier? We talked about what's your process at work? We talk a lot about process as a system-based operation here. If someone collapsed at your work tomorrow, what would be the process? Who would go meet the ambulance? Is there a defib on site? How are you going to get the defib to the patient? If you're a big site, say you're a big school, as we've been talking to schools today, do you need more than 1 defibrillator on site? How can you get them to the nearest bit? Do you want to talk us through the 3 C's that we've been talking about, Lindsay?
3 C's: be calm, be confident, and be careful. So afford yourself a second to take a deep breath, because there's nothing worse than that feeling of panic, and that feeling of panic will spread. So try and be as calm as you can. You've got this. Be confident with what you're doing and be careful. Situations change and the environment you're in can change. So make sure that you are always safe. Go back to the number 1 rule about danger. So don't put yourself in any unnecessary danger.
Perfect. So now that we've talked about calling 999, we're going to hand you over to Suji, who's one of our pilots. So we know that we send our aircraft to about 9 calls a day across the southeast. And Suji's going to talk you through a little bit around our aircraft, some of the special dispensations that we're actually able to fly under that allows us to fly 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, through day and night. And also enter things like controlled London airspace through the Gatwick airspace to allow us to just fly in a straight line and get essentially to patients as quickly as possible.
Hello everyone, my name's Suji. I'm one of the pilots here at KSS and I'm here to give you a little bit of information about the aircraft that we fly, the Augusta Western 169 that you can see behind me. It's a very sleek, very fast aircraft. It travels at about 170 miles an hour, which allows us to cover all 3 counties within 30 minutes. So Margate is the furthest east that we go, and we can get there from Redhill in about 30 minutes, especially seeing as there are no traffic light speed cameras or traffic jams. This is a real advantage of getting our critical care and our paramedic and doctor to a patient as fast as we possibly can, which is our main target. So this is the inside of our aircraft. The Augusta Western 169 has a large cabin space which allows us to take both our doctor, paramedic, our patient who's critically injured, and potentially a parent with us to hospital. We have this very large stretcher that the patient will be arriving from the scene with our doctor and paramedic. They slide in over the top of here. They then get hooked up onto a ventilator and a monitor system, as you can see in the background. We then push this in, rotate it in, and slide the passenger into the centre of the aircraft with all the straps on. We get our doctor and our paramedic on board, and then we take off and take them to hospital as fast as we possibly can. As you can see, it may look relatively small from the outside, but it is one of the largest ones that is around in the air ambulance industry, and it works very well for us. When we're on our missions, we go between our base and our patient, but sometimes we have to travel through a Gatwick airspace, and we use an alpha call sign instead of blue lights, because that allows air traffic control to prioritise us over other air traffic, and occasionally usually allow us to fly a straight line from our first point to our second point, so it cuts down the time significantly. We also fly at night, which is why we have two pilots. It's also a complex aircraft. So at night we use night vision goggles, and we use a very bright light on the front so that we can provide a 24-hour service to the communities. We still can get to everywhere in the 3 counties at night, and we do it as fast and safely as possible. Our target time during the day is 5 minutes to launch from the call coming in, and at night we have a little bit of extended planning because we need to look more carefully at the sites that we go to. Thank you very much.
Lovely, welcome back. So let's do a quick recap of what we've learned so far, Lindsay. So we've talked about checking for danger.
Yeah.
We've talked about checking for a response.
Yep, shake and shout.
We've talked about shouting for help, or essentially calling 999, and we've gotten to Carol and sort of talked about the dispatch process. And then we've just caught up with Suji, haven't we? One of our pilots, talking essentially around how the awesome skills of our pilots allow us to try and deliver this life-saving care as quickly as possible. But this is kind of the bit where we get them to do the work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or try and get them to do the work. So what we need is essentially your help. We talked about this at the start. For every minute that CPR is delayed, survival falls by 10%. And therefore we know we can deliver the most sophisticated care from the helicopter. But actually, it's the actions of people before we arrive that makes such a difference.
Absolutely.
So, Lindsay, remind us of the 2 questions Carol told us they'd ask, the call handler would ask when they first ring.
So firstly, they'll ask if the person's awake, and secondly, they'll ask if they're breathing.
Yeah, perfect. So we've essentially showed everyone how to puzzle out the first answer, haven't we? So are they awake was our shake and shout, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And the next bit's around, are they breathing, or are they breathing normally? Really tricky, isn't it? Do you want to talk us through the process of how we check for normal breathing?
Yeah, so the first thing we need to do when we're checking for breathing is make sure the patient's airway is open. And to do that is very simple. Place a hand on the forehead, fingers under the chin, and tip the head back. With the patient's head in that position, we then place our ear down to their mouth, looking down their chest. We're listening for breath, we're feeling for breath, and we're looking for chest rise and fall. And we're going to do that for 10 seconds.
So, Lindsay, should we talk through essentially what things might be abnormal? Because I think it's really tricky, isn't it, for people to puzzle out when they say, are they breathing normally?
Yes.
Which is what we often hear our call handlers say, don't we? So if they're not breathing, fairly straightforward.
That's bad.
That's clearly bad. What about kind of long pauses? I hear this on calls when I listen in. You hear people go, yes, they're breathing. Oh, I don't know if they are. Oh, they've taken another breath. But it might only be a breath every 20 seconds or something.
Yeah, and I think first of all, we really need to establish what is normal breathing. Because if you know what's normal, then you know what is abnormal. So I think it's just a case of if you're at home with someone right now, just looking at them, or even just kind of looking at yourself, you know you're breathing, but it's not obvious. You're not your arms aren't moving, your chest isn't expanding big. So I think once you know what is normal, you set the benchmark, you then can tell what's not normal. So the long pauses, as you say, the snoring would indicate there's an obstructed airway. And agonal breathing, which is so often overlooked for normal breathing. And when I'm describing this to people, I always say to them, it's one of those things where when you see it, you will know because it is that abnormal. And it's very much like a fish out of water. A lot of mouth opening, gulping, like, and you just know that that is not normal. So if you are in any doubt of if it's normal or not, if it's not normal, start CPR.
Yeah, exactly. So we're saying if it's not normal, they're going to start CPR, but we've very deliberately not told anyone to check for a pulse, have we?
That is a good point. We have not, because we're not going to.
We're not going to. So why don't we want people to check for a pulse? Because there will be some people who have previously been taught to check for a pulse.
Yeah. Pulse checking went out of vogue a long time ago when we're teaching this, because it is really, really hard to check someone's pulse. Our own hearts are going to be pumping, like our heart rate's going to be through the roof, our hands might be shaking, because this will be a nerve-wracking experience. And we know we know through literature that it's especially difficult to check for a pulse. So we've ruled that out, and your indicator for whether you start CPR or not is, are they breathing, yes or no? If the answer is no, we start CPR. And are they breathing normally? Again, if the answer is no, we start CPR.
Perfect. So with that, Lindsay, there's going to be some people out there that go, I might be doing CPR on someone with a pulse because they might not be breathing normally,
Yeah.
and I might get it wrong, and I might start CPR on someone with a pulse.
Yeah.
What do we think about that? Because that happens every single day, doesn't it? When we're in the control room listening to these calls,
Yeah, absolutely.
this happens.
Yeah.
Do people get in trouble?
It's happened to me.
Yeah.
Even I've been caught out. And essentially the answer is that if they don't need CPR, they will soon tell you to get off. So if you start CPR, if in doubt, you're going to start CPR. And like I said, if they don't need it, they will soon show that they don't need it, either by some movement or literally some moaning and groaning, anything that's showing signs of life, and you know that you don't need to carry on with CPR.
Perfect. And I'm going to labour the point here because I think it's really important. So people will worry, they're going to start CPR, they might break a rib, as we often worry about, and that person had a pulse and they wake up and push them off. Do we know of anyone who's got in trouble for this?
No, when we're doing this, we're acting in the patient's best interest. You are essentially presuming that there are no signs of life and you need to give this person CPR. So things like rib fractures can happen, but at the end of the day, if you're acting in the patient's best interest and you believe they need resuscitation, then the patient will survive a rib fracture. They won't survive you running off, flailing your hands in the air going, oh my goodness, you know. So it's really important that we have a go and we do our best for these patients.
Yeah, and I think legally, just to kind of completely kind of wrap it up, legally, if anyone was prosecuted for trying to do CPR for the right intentions, that would be disastrous, wouldn't it? The principle that would set.
Wouldn't it?
So we know that there's not an appetite. We've had a really good look for any cases, and we can't find any UK cases of people being prosecuted. So let's talk them through how to do CPR. So if you've got something at home, we want you to grab the pillow, the cushion off the sofa, you know, the rolled up jumper, whatever you've got around you. I want you to actually have a go here, because us talking at you is really easy. We've been doing this all day. We're confident at this. I want you to get some muscle memory so that if you ever need to use these skills and you speak to the call handler, you've got some muscle memory, okay? So pillow, cushion, rolled up jumper, absolutely anything, something soft that you're going to be able to compress. And what we want you to do is kneel next to whatever it is on the floor. You're going to put your hands on top of each other, as so, and you can interlink your fingers, you can hold onto your wrist, you can just have them over the top of each other. It really doesn't matter. Okay, you're going to have your arms nice and straight. You're going to kneel really closely, and you're going to put the heel of your hand, this bit here, in the centre of the person's chest, if you had a person. And you can do that by just drawing an imaginary line, armpit to armpit.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go
I
for
know
it.
we joke about if you have a person, please don't practice this on a real human.
Yeah, please don't.
Because it is going to hurt them.
Definitely. So you've got your hands together, arms nice and straight, pushing in the centre of the chest, and you're going to push 5 to 6 centimetres 2 times a second. So shall we just show them what that looks like on here? And please do have a go at home, okay? Even if it's just the straight arms pushing on a jumper, this is what we want you to do, okay? And it really is as simple as this, okay? Now, there's 3 occasions, isn't there, Lindsay, when they're going to stop doing CPR. Do you want to talk us through those 3 occasions?
Okay, so when the person wakes up, so if the person starts to show signs of life, or they actually tell you to get off, then you can stop. Second is when the emergency services are actually with you in the room. So it's no good if you're at the roadside and you see them coming down the street and you start waving. We want your hands on the chest, keeping that good quality chest compressions going until they actually physically tell you to stop, because they'll take over. And if you are doing a good job, that they might ask you to carry on while they get their equipment set up. And then the last time is when you're too physically tired to carry on because you've been doing chest compressions by yourself, which is why we go back to the sending for help and getting someone else here, because you don't want to be doing chest compressions by yourself.
No, definitely not. So we've taught them through CPR, Lindsay, and hopefully very quickly just showing them how simple it is. But CPR is kind of half the puzzle, isn't it? We've been talking about. So CPR buys us time, doesn't it? We are beating the heart, compressing the heart and forcing blood around the body. And it buys us time, but it's unlikely to restart the heart on its own. The other bit of the puzzle is this, isn't it? The defibrillator. So should we talk a little bit about where these can be found?
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully you will have seen one around you, but I can guarantee after this session you'll spot them now in places you didn't even think they were. So we talk about some old phone boxes have now been turned into defibrillator stations, if you like. So talking to stations, train stations, supermarkets, shopping centres, your GP surgery, schools, gyms. Do I need to go on? They are literally popping up everywhere.
And so many workplaces have these, don't we?
Yes.
And we talked about process earlier. You know, please do think about it. Does your workplace have one? Does your village have one? If you live remotely, how could you get a defibrillator to someone as quickly as possible? Because you really don't need much training to do this, do we? And we're going to demonstrate that. All you need to do is follow the instructions.
Absolutely.
So if I move my person out of the way, should we run through this?
Oh, so I get to do CPR again?
Yes, you do.
That was a little jibe at Ben because I've been doing all the hard work. I'm joking.
So, Lindsay's person has collapsed. She's going to start CPR, okay?
I am.
Perfect, off you go.
Okie dokie.
So here you have nice straight arms, centre of the chest, pushing 2 times a second. And luckily we've got a defib with us. I'm going to demonstrate how easy it is to use. So we're going to turn it on and we're just going to follow the instructions, okay? That is all we're going to do.
Call emergency medical services now.
So we've called 999 already, hopefully, but if not, we've called for some help.
Hello, the voice prompt calmly.
Follow the instructions.
Remove all clothing from chest and stomach.
So we need to remove the patient's clothing. These kits will often come with scissors that allow you to cut through clothing.
From the bottom of the
And again, no one's got in trouble for doing this whilst trying to use a defibrillator. We just can't find any cases of it. We're going to pull the pads out the back, okay?
Look closely at the picture.
And I'm going to come show you these up there whilst
Peel off the pad.
stopping.
Busted.
Just having a break. Okay, so you've got, I'm going to try and get that into focus. There's one pad, I've got to go the other way. And I'm going to show you the other pad.
Labeled 2.
Got to go the other way.
And stick to
Just
the
there,
best
come into
you can.
focus. Okay,
Exactly as
on
shown.
these 2 pads are pictures of exactly where they should go.
The pads firmly to the bed.
So we're going to say pad number 1, we're going to follow the picture and put it up here.
Closely at the picture on each
Pad number 2, we're going to follow the picture and we're going to put it underneath the left armpit. We're going to stick them down firmly. As soon as they're stuck down, the machine will detect it. And the key thing is that we stop and let it analyse. It's going to look at the rhythm and it's going to advise you to deliver a shock or not. So it's asking us to deliver a shock, we press it quickly and then we do straight back to our CPR. And then all we're going to do is just follow the instructions on here. And this machine will tell us how quickly to compress. Okay, every 2 minutes, the machine will reanalyse.
System shutting down.
So every 2 minutes it will reanalyse, it will look at the rhythm and it will deliver a shock. And you're going to keep doing that until one of those 3 things happens that Lindsay talked about earlier. The person wakes up, the emergency services arrive, or you physically can't do anymore. Should we put all this together from start to finish?
Go on then.
Okay. Right. So hopefully you can see this starting to come together, but also see how simple this process is, okay? And the key thing is just having the confidence to act, okay? So Lindsay, this person here is collapsed in front of you, okay? Let's walk through the process from start to finish. So first thing we need to do,
I'm checking for danger.
so checking it's safe and there's nothing
safe.
dangerous for you.
Okay.
Next thing we need to do,
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, I'm trying to help you.
so we check for a response, that shake and shout that we've talked about. Next thing we need to do,
Can I have some help over here, please?
so we've asked for some help. The person's not woken up, so clearly we're going to need some help. Okay, we've called 999 and they will ask you, is the patient awake? We've done our shake and shout, are they breathing normally? So exactly as Lindsay's doing, we're going to open the airway, look, listen and feel for 10 seconds.
They're not breathing.
They're not breathing. She's going to start CPR straight away. Centre of the chest 2 times a second. Luckily, we've got defib with us. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it on and we're going to follow the instructions, okay? The temptation is to skip ahead and try and jump ahead, but it's really important you follow the instructions, because if you skip ahead, you'll get yourself into trouble. It can feel slow. It might feel slow if you're doing the CPR, but actually this is quite fast, okay? So it's really important we follow the instructions. We're going to rip the clothing off. We're going to take the pads out, and we've got those 2 things. Keep going, Lindsay. You're doing really well. It is difficult, I will give you this, but you're doing really well, okay? We've got 2 pictures here. We're going to stick them exactly where they are. And Lindsay demonstrates really well how tough it is. It's slightly warm in here.
It's very warm in here.
I mean, it's mildly warm not doing CPR. It's warm just... So it says, do not touch. It's going to analyse. So Lindsay does stop for this point. This is where she can stop. It's advising a shock. It's flashing. We're going to press the shock button straight back on the chest. Okay, you can start CPR as soon as the shock has been delivered. Now, Lindsay, there's a couple of people online who want us to just do another 4 or 5 rounds of this.
Are they really?
They've just asked for you to go for a little bit longer.
I don't think they did.
So we're going to shut that down there. Okay, give her a G. It is quite warm in here. There's a lot of lights in here. There's a lot of tech. So hopefully that demonstrates how kind of simple the process is. And I think the key thing that we want people to take away from this is confidence.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's not that you need to be an expert. You just need to have the confidence, because the 999 call handler is always going to offer you kind of instructions and support. So what we're going to do now, we're going to pass you over to Duncan. He's our medical director, and he's going to talk a little bit around kind of the future of cardiac arrest here at Kent Air Ambulance Charity, Kent, Surrey, Sussex. And when you come back to us, what we'll do is we'll do a couple of questions with you, and we'll put on some questions that we've been asked throughout the day as well. Thank you.
So thank you everyone for joining us today and forming part of our army of lifesavers that we're trying to create across the southeast. Now, I'm joined by Duncan, one of our doctors here at KSS, and what we want to discuss over just the next couple of minutes is what we're doing to try and help cardiac arrest survival within the southeast. Now that you are all helping us with that chain of survival in the first few steps that we've talked about, we're going to tell you what we're doing to kind of support you in that 4th step. Now, Duncan, we've spent the whole day training people. We spent last year training people and trained literally thousands of people how to do CPR. And I think there's many people out there that think it's just too difficult. They're worried about performing it. What can you say about, the importance of it and what it means to us as a charity?
So early CPR, chest compressions and early defibrillation is the key part in increasing survival in patients who have cardiac arrest. And we can't stress that enough. And we know that it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what your background is. Everybody can play a part in delivering that. It doesn't matter whether you're 7 or
Lovely, welcome back. We've got loads of questions. Millie has put them on the board in about size 8. But, so it's slightly
I
tricky.
need binoculars to see them.
I can see them now, so we're all good. We're going to try and get through as many of these questions as possible. We've got
That's a
loads of really
really
good
good
ones.
question, yeah.
What we are going to do, we've had loads of questions throughout the day that have been awesome. We're going to try and film some responses and also put them on social media over the next couple of days as well, aren't we? So shall we go? What happens if they have a defibrillator or pacemaker? So I assume that's an implanted defibrillator or a pacemaker in place already. Do you want to talk through that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, so you still carry on doing what you're doing, because if the patient is not breathing, then their defib or their pacemaker clearly isn't working. So essentially you would, most people you can see it's like a little matchbox sized under the skin. You can see that they've got one, but like I said, if they are not breathing, then clearly neither of those are working. So you need to just carry on regardless with what you're doing.
There's a really good question about probably a step that we should have covered in more detail today, actually, now in hindsight. So someone said about moving people onto the floor,
Yeah.
and the appropriateness of doing CPR on a bed. That's can often provide real challenge, can't it? So
I
we
think so.
know that CPR in a bed is largely ineffective because you need to be against a hard surface, don't you? So moving people onto the floor is difficult, isn't it? It's probably a bit undignified.
Yeah.
You can look after kind of head and stuff as best you can, but sometimes it is just kind of dragging, isn't it?
It
Which
is.
sounds really brutal. But
And you know what? You can use the sheet. So
Yeah.
just grab the sheet and pull them. And like Ben said, it's not nice, and people really worry about hurting them and them banging their head. But the chances are that's not going to be as detrimental to them as them not having CPR. So as hard as it is, either just get them with their clothing if they've got any on. If they're in bed, they might not have any clothing on. Just grab the sheet and get them onto the floor. And that's the best place to do CPR.
yeah, and that's what we teach our clinicians, isn't it? If they're
Yeah.
working on their own, you've just got to get onto the floor however you can. You know, you can teach the most elaborate processes,
Yeah.
can't you? And I've seen that taught, but the reality is you've just got to get there. But bed sheets are a really useful kind of adjunct, aren't they? So we've got, where should we go? Should we say, how does one gain access to defibrillators that are in the key code locked cabinets? Really good question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's actually really simple. It's as simple as you calling 999, and they'll either direct you to that defib, or you can tell them there is a defib there, and they'll have the code on record, so they'll be able to pass that code over the phone, and then you can get into the cabinet.
Yeah, and not all are locked, are they?
No,
So the
that's
ones,
right.
the ones on the front of our building, for example, we've elected not to put them in a locked
Purposely, yeah.
thing. There's clearly a risk around security with that, and it's difficult, isn't it? And that is why most are in a key code locked cabinet.
It is interesting though, actually, of all the ones in unlocked cabinets, they very rarely get stolen. It's a bit like the life ring round the side of a pond, the buoyancy aid. They very rarely get stolen. Most people know that they are there as a life-saving piece of equipment, so it's unusual that they do get stolen. But obviously, if you've paid out a lot of money for one, we do understand that you want to keep it safe. So.
And shall we just talk about how people know where they are? Because I think that was a question, wasn't it? It's kind of the other adjunct to that question. So the code, and also how do people find out where these defibrillators are? Yeah,
so you can download an app actually called the Good Sam. There's two parts to it. There's a responder part. So if you have if you've done a first aid course, or you've done a defib course where you've got a certificate, you can become a responder. So your phone will alert you to a cardiac arrest if you're nearby. You can see where the defibs are on that. And similarly, there's the alerter part of the app, which again, you can see where the defibs are. And then there's the website, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. And the ambulance service also know, don't they? The ambulance service have access to the circuit, which is the biggest defib database in the UK. If you have a defib in your organisation and it isn't registered on the circuit, please do register it, because then the ambulance service know it's there, and actually they can then direct people to it, can't they? So that's the other really important bit. If you've got a defibrillator in your workplace,
absolutely,
please register it.
Absolutely encourage you to register it.
So we've also had a couple of questions about community first responders, which I think is really important to talk about, isn't it? Because they are essentially the first line of defence, or the first step in that chain of survival that we talk about, where you know, survival falls for every minute
Yeah.
that CPR and defibrillation is delayed. This is why they're so important. So how does KSS work with them? Why do we think they're so important, and how do we fit alongside them, Lindsay?
They're awesome. I'm just going to put that out there. These people are volunteering to do this in their own time, and I can't tell you how much that is appreciated, especially in such a vast area as Kent, Surrey, Sussex. You know, we have a lot of ground to cover, especially if we're not on our helicopter and we are in a car. You know, the distances are phenomenal. So these people are essential in that first chain of survival. So they are based in the community, they carry a defibrillator, they carry all the equipment they need to administer that first essential life support. So they can do CPR, they can use a defibrillator, and yeah, they're absolutely vital to us. So we absolutely appreciate their work.
And we've got cases, we know of patients, you know, it's a semi-rural area in the southeast. We've got areas of big population density, but also very rural areas. And we've got cases of community first responders who have successfully resuscitated people, haven't they, before the ambulance even arrives.
They've got a really good success rate, actually.
So using CPR and defibrillating the patient before arrival, and actually they've achieved an output before the ambulance has even arrived. So for some of the rural communities, the community first responders or the defib in the village is really, really important, isn't it?
So if you have a community first...
And right on cue,
That is...
someone's good Sam has just gone off.
The good Sam at alert, which is slightly concerning. Take a defib, Stu. So if you have a community first responder in your village, cherish them because they are absolutely vital and super valuable. And we thank you very much for your work.
Perfect. We'll do one more question, and then I think we'll go see if Stu needs a hand.
Yeah.
So, final question: is a defibrillator safe to use when wet?
The answer to that is yes. So the geek that I am, I could tell you about ingress protection. So IP ratings on defibrillators are pretty much as high as you can get. So essentially, you could pretty much jet wash a defibrillator. I don't recommend it, and it's safe. The thing we talk about being wet is mostly to do with the pads adhering to the patient. So if someone's been dragged out of a river or a swimming pool, or it's absolutely pouring with rain, all of these things are safe for you as the user to use the defib, but you just want to dry their chest, the patient's chest, as best you can to make sure that the pads stick, because if they don't stick properly, that shot won't be as effective.
Perfect. So thank you very much everyone for joining. We're gonna wrap things up there. There's a couple more questions that we just can't get to, but we're going to answer these on social media over the next couple of days. Thank you everyone who's given up some time this evening to come join us. Hopefully we've taught you some skills that hopefully you never have to use, but if you do, you have the confidence to do so. As we talked about, we are your local air ambulance charity. We are funded predominantly through donations and the generosity of members of the public. So essentially, we can't do it without your help. Learning these skills is a really important first thing, but also actually supporting the charity is great as well. We're going to put some slides up on the screen that kind of link to the charity, but we're also going to go look at that Good Sam activation and go see if we can help.
I think
as
we
well.
are actually needed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.